Hi, my name is Kevin England. I'm the CEO President of Vonazon. We, like many of you, are a partner of Inforum. We happen to be an alliance partner. We were asked by the wonderful marketing team, the Inforum partner marketing team, to help many of the partners understand something that is challenging and sometimes daunting to many of you, which is to how to develop out a website as a true demand generation tool. So as the founder of Vonazon, a full-service digital sales and marketing agency, I happen to know a few things about web design and how to turn it into a demand generation tool for your business. We have developed out hundreds of websites along the way. So I thought, instead of telling you basically like, oh, do this and do that when it comes to web development, I thought it'd be kind of fun to tell you a little bit about a story about something that maybe is unique to all of us. And I think something that we all can identify with, which is the Inforum website. Now I can sit there and bash it a little bit because Inforum just changed out their website, and of course it's something completely new and it looks wonderful and has a lot of new information. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about the old Inforum website, and then we're going to relate it as we were a new prospective partner trying to learn more about what it's like to become a partner of Inforum. So follow with me. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a little variation of the website itself. So I'm going to start that off, and I'm going to kind of take it. Remember, we're going from a partner's perspective. So as I start traversing down the site, and I see, oh, there's the award winner from 2017, although we know that's going to change because there's new ones for 2018. But I see I can learn about channel partner, what type of partner I want to be. I have some of these videos that I can potentially look at, so there's some content available to me. There's some case studies, which is great. So let's go back up here. Now I've reviewed both these videos, and I'm not going to take the time to review them again. They do give me a little bit of information that I need, but it really don't tell me a lot about what it's like to become an Inforum partner. But there is this analyst report, so let's go ahead and click on this analyst report. And what do we find when we click on the analyst report? Provided information that was basically 2 years old. So it's really old information in that analyst report. So being that we have this old information on there, and then we have other aspects of the website that really don't provide us with a lot of information, it doesn't help me to do the independent research that I need in order to truly understand what it's like to be an Inforum partner. It's missing that type of information. I wasn't able to take my own path to truly understand what it's like to be an Inforum partner. So then it kind of begs to ask that one question. Why do people go to a website in the first place? Well, for those of you in sales, the answer is not to be sold anything, because nobody goes to a website to be sold anything. We go for one reason. We go for an education. Everyone, when we go to a website, we go for an education. We go for a positive experience that really facilitates research that we want to do on our own throughout our own journey to understand what it's like to either work with this company or be part of this company or to engage with their information. So Inforum, as I mentioned, recognized they had this problem, but they knew they couldn't take on the task initially and immediately to change the entire website. Instead, they just thought, all right, we need to change a portion of it so we can help our recruitment process. So what did they do? They reached out to Vonazon. They reached out to us to help support them in that capacity. So that's what we did. We built a website in the interim as they were building the bigger website that basically was built by partners for partners. It takes you through this process, and what you'll notice is that we started to tell a narrative. We started to tell a story about what it's like to be an Inforum partner and the information that you might need to become an Inforum partner, to understand the products and services associated to Inforum and the ecosystem that is around that. For in fact, if you as a partner wanted to then understand about ERP, you can now understand it from a partner perspective and not from a customer perspective. Because if you look at the Inforum website the way it used to be, it talked to customers and not partners. So we felt it was important to speak to the partner about products that Inforum provides and to provide calls to actions that help them to better understand how to engage with the partner team, with the recruitment team. We also provided a wealth of education, a ton of different resources that speak to a partner about either the variety of different products or case studies. There was also information on there that helped you to better understand, the types of partner that you wanted to be. So all of that information was available, and we made that available to the visitor who would come to the website. I want to basically talk about what the differences were between the two sites. So at the old Infor.com website and now the InforPartner.net website, the difference was the wealth of content. What we did is we took a wealth of content. We took all this content from areas that were actually gated, so a new user would never be able to access this information because they don't have the passwords. So we took that information from those gated areas and we brought it forward onto this new website so that we could educate you or the partner or the visitor about some of the information that they weren't able to engage with before. Now, we also created a user experience and an accessibility to information that wasn't necessarily there. If there's one thing that I want you to learn and understand when you walk away from watching this presentation, is that the most important thing you need to do when developing out a new website is to create a user experience that helps somebody down a journey or path that's important to them. So think of it from that perspective. Also understand that any time that a visitor comes to your website, they're always looking for one thing. What's in it for me? What am I going to get from this website? How am I going to educate myself about the information that could be and should be available to me? For hundreds of years, we've all heard this. Content is king. We get it. I get it. But in today's world, it's even more important. What do we do every day? What are you doing while I'm doing this presentation? You're searching for something. You're typing in something on your mobile device. All we do every day is search for content. Search for content to educate us about something. So content is even more important. And if your website is not consistently and immediately providing that information, well, then people are going to go find where that information is available to them. And unfortunately, they might be going to your competitor's site to get that information. So always keep that in mind, that anytime you build something out or you build a new website, you need to make sure that that content is consistently available for your visitor so that they can educate themselves along their own journey. Throughout this course, we're going to learn a couple different things. We're going to learn about web design. We're going to learn about content. We're going to learn and talk about SEO and how important that is to your website. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the value of turning that website into a demand generation tool for your business. So the first one is web design. I'm going to talk to you about something that's really important to me, which is the psychology of web design. Now, everyone, of course, heard, and you probably, and many of you have probably taken classes on psychology, and it's really trying to understand the human brain. So what is the psychology of web design? Is it about just manipulating images and colors and fonts? No, it's a little more than that. It's trying to understand how your visitors engage with that information that's on your website and how they take their own path and journey to better understand that. So it's about how do you control and manipulate how someone engages with the information that you're trying to provide them about your business and what makes you unique. So think about it from how a visitor wants and how they would like to get information from your website, and try to tell a cohesive story. So from that perspective, you have to create a narrative and a cohesive story to the information that you're providing to your customer. And then you also want to make it very easily navigatable. So as people take their journey and you're telling them this story and this narrative about your products and services, you're making it very easy for them to navigate. And then while they're navigating through this information, what you're doing is you're building trust. You're building authority of who you are within that industry and how people should be engaging with you. Anytime someone engages with your information, you want to make sure that you're putting them at ease and that you're providing that information consistently throughout their path and journey on your website. Now, the one thing I get frustrated about, and I've hired many developers, designers, and implementers, is that sometimes designers kind of think linearly. They don't think about your website on how the people are engaging with that information. So when you're hiring somebody, whether it be internally or externally, to develop out your website, you have to be the person to really think of how people are engaging with that information, how you want your prospective customers or your existing customers to engage with that information. And that will help the developers and designers to do a better job. So the next one, with the psychology of design is to understand how people interact with information. How do they interact with the information that you put on your website? So in Western society, we use two different patterns. We use the F pattern and the Z pattern. So the F pattern is used when we are scanning information. When we are scanning a website, we use that F pattern. So what is that? That's, left to right, top to bottom. And what are we doing when we're scanning that information? We are looking for images. We're looking for bolded text. We're looking for pieces of information that's really easy to look at. And then if that information is exciting to us and we actually like it, what we do, we're going to go back and read it. And at that point, what are we doing? We're using the Z pattern. And that Z pattern allows us now to read more information. If you don't think people read your website, they do. People will read your website. It's not just you reading your website. Other people will read the information. But first thing they're going to do is scan it. That's what we all do. When you're developing out a website, when you're developing out the information that's on a website, the first thing you need to do is make sure that each page has a clear and concise message. And you're providing that message very easily for someone to navigate that information. You also want to make sure that intended message is immediately understandable or is immediately apparent to the user who's visiting the page. If it's not immediately apparent, then you need to redesign that page. Don't make it difficult for people to work with you. Don't make it hard for them to find the information that they need in order to engage with you. One thing I always hear, especially from tech companies, is that, well, I have all my information is super technical, so I've got to get it all on that page. Well, if it's something that's super technical, what you need to do, create a white paper. Instead of making everyone have to go through the nauseam of understanding all that technical stuff, make it so that you put it into a white paper and let only those who are technically engaged access that type of information. Okay, so next step in the process is to understand your expectations. Understand the expectations of the visitor coming to your website, and then knowing your audience as they go through their journey. So let's put it into this perspective. So expectations. If you came to this class and instead of providing you with information about web design or demand generation, I start talking about direct mail. So if I started to talk about direct mail in this conversation, you'd be like, wait a second, that is not what I was expecting. I was totally not expecting to talk about, direct mail. I expected you to talk about web design. So what I'm doing at that point is I was then taking the control away from you. So what are you going to do if I start talking about something that's not relevant to you or you didn't expect? You're going to bounce. You're going to leave. You're going to walk out. So that's the same thing that happens on your website. If people go to your web page and they're expecting to get a certain piece of information and then you change it up and you're providing them with information that isn't exactly what they expected, they're going to leave. They're going to find that information elsewhere. Also, another big part of that, and especially for you salespeople out there, the hard sell doesn't work. And you can't mask that in some type of cool user experience because your visitors are smart, just like you. So they're going to know that you're trying to hard sell them on something that you do. Use that 80-20 rule, and you want to educate 80% of the time, and you can sell 20% of the time. But make that sales pitch pretty light and easy, okay? Also, my director of marketing always says that stop thinking like a marketer and start actually thinking like your customer or a consumer. And that will help you to better understand how to develop out a website that really educates your customer. You should think of it from the perspective of what would I want to see? Or what would I want to read in information that would educate me about my business? So always think of it from that perspective. Okay? All right. So as we go through this process, let's start off with the first thing that you have to ask yourself. Basically, what is the ultimate goal of this web page or this website, then the individual pages themselves? You're always asking yourself that question. What are our true goals and objectives of this page and of this entire site? Is it to generate new leads? Is it to provide an education? Is it to get someone to engage with a certain piece of information like a video or something like that? What are you truly trying to accomplish? Understand that, and when you do, then you can move forward in the next step of the process. So we actually, when we develop out a website, we kind of bucketize this information, and we do it in different stages. We have the early stage of the process, the mid stage of the process, and the late stage of the process. The early stage is like the awareness stage. What information can we provide a visitor that provides them with an awareness and an understanding to our business? What information can we provide to a potential customer that provides them with an interest stage or the mid stage, which is about maybe our products and services and how we're unique in our approach? And then the next one is the late stage of that process, which might provide them with information about how other people are engaging with us, case studies and testimonials and things like that. You want to bucketize that in that format, both on the pages and on the content that you're providing to your customer. So how do you do that? Well, you have to do that through actions and requests and activities on your website that get people to engage with that, which are sometimes the calls to actions. So what did we do on the inforpartner.net site? We had to do that same thing. The first question we had to ask Infor. Okay, so what is the ultimate goal? Well, the team at Infor told us the ultimate goal is to push leads, net new leads and prospects over to our recruitment team. All right, great. So how are we going to do that? We're going to do that with a variation of a number of calls to actions. Become a partner. That's a hard call to action. So what do we call that? We call a hot CTA. Need more information? So you're not basically, I don't want to become a partner yet, but I do want more information. So this is kind of a warm call to action. And then maybe something that's a little bit softer is maybe just to speak to a recruitment manager or to download some gated content. But it still facilitates an engagement with information that allows someone to move on through their journey. So keep that in mind as you're building things out. The next step of the process is to develop out your visuals and your style guide. And all of us have some type of branding style guide. We have a logo, we have some fonts, we have some colors. Make those consistent throughout the site. Make sure that you're utilizing those colors on a regular basis. And again, be consistent. Don't all of a sudden design like a template page that looks like one thing and the next one looks like another thing and the next one looks like another thing, because then people get confused and it becomes, a bit frustrating. And you're not dealing with them on that emotional level anymore. You're making it so that they just kind of want to bounce and leave and go someplace else to find this information. So be consistent with your branding. Tell them a story, create a narrative, and then allow your content and your branding to speak for itself as people traverse your website. What you want to do now is I'm going to take you through the next step of that process. So I'm going to click on it again. And then basically from here, I'm going to show you what we did with the inforpartner.net site. We told a story. We created a narrative. We provided content throughout this entire process to allow someone to take their own journey, to understand the ecosystem that's built out within Infor, to understand what it's truly like to be a partner of Infor. And we gave them a wealth of information so they could make that determination on their own as they went through the site. We also made it very simple to navigate. And we made everything connect to each other. So there are multiple pages that interconnect with each other throughout this process. And that was one thing. Infor prides themselves on a rich ecosystem of interconnectivity of products. So why not allow the user to be able to have that same type of interconnectivity? Okay, there are two things that I want to talk about on this page, two different ideas. One is the buyer persona and the other one's the sitemap. And you're wondering, okay, what do they have to do with each other? Well, they have a lot to do with each other. So I speak at a lot of events in front of thousands of marketers. And the one thing that I always start off with is buyer personas. And I know we've all heard that before, buyer personas. Build out your buyer personas. But so many people still tell me that, oh yeah, I've got our buyer persona. I got it up here. I've got it in my head. Well, that's not where I want. I want it on paper. I want you to spend the time to truly build out your buyer persona, to understand who your customers are and to understand the pain points associated to your customers. That's going to help you in the development of your website. And so what is the buyer persona? Well, the buyer persona is that semi-fictional representation of your target customer. We use that as marketers for lead generation purposes, to create content, to provide information, to better understand our potential customer from their perspective. Well, when you're developing out a website, you're going to use that buyer persona to build out the sitemap. And if you use your buyer persona to build out that sitemap, you're going to be so much more successful. So you should really and definitely think of it from that perspective. When you're building your sitemap, and as you're creating that integration, you're providing that narrative, I want you to think of it from this type of story. So let's let's look at it from the perspective of what if somebody is navigating your website, and as they go deeper and deeper into your website, they're getting more and more information about who you are and what you do. Let's think of it like if you walk into a clothing store. How about that? So if you walk into a clothing store, what do? We walk into that clothing store, we walk right up to, we walk in, we start going towards the back of the clothing store. And what are we doing? We're looking about how things are set up, the types of products or the clothes that they have. We're looking at the cleanliness of the store. We're looking at all this information before we actually make the determination to buy, but we're educating ourselves along the way. We're building trust and authority. If you understand your customer, you can manipulate the direction that they go and create a journey for them as they walk in and as they better understand your products. Now, let's say that someone's on your website and they click on some educational content. Well, maybe we can liken that or equate that to going on and trying something on. So now they're trying something on, you're trying something on. What do you do when you try something on and you like it? Well, hopefully you buy it. You go up to the register and you actually buy that product that you were looking at. So how do we equate that on a website? Well, we equate that on a website to maybe going to a contact us page and downloading some information. So that's kind of how we equate that along that same journey. And so that's what you're really trying to accomplish with somebody who's engaging with your website. How many of us walk into a store and just do this little lap, right? We walk in, we look around, we walk right out. What does that mean? That means that the store did not provide enough information to allow us to stop, look, try it on, and maybe buy it. And that's the same thing with your website. You need to be able to provide an education and information that's going to help someone to engage with your content. So this is what we built out from the inforpartner.net website. This is the information that we put together. Notice that we create a staggered approach to the information. We also made sure that there was interconnectivity of the information from one page to another. So basically everything was connected to everything. And as I mentioned before, Infor prides themselves on having an interconnected ecosystem. And so that if everything is connected to everything, it's very similar to how Infor looks at their products, where one product can connect to the next. So why not make your marketing process a representation of your products and services? So make that process in which someone engages with your information the same way that your products and services may or may not work. So moving forward from here, I'm going to talk to you a bit about framework and how important framework is in this process. It's like having an architect and designing blueprints. Now, I'm going through that process right now. We're moving our offices. We're moving our offices from Simi Valley, California to Ventura, California. And in the process, I'm realizing I have this gigantic, big old white open space, and we have to figure out how to build that out. I'm going to tell you how difficult that has been without the architect information. I finally got the architect information just recently, and then it's like a sigh of relief. It's like, oh my gosh, now I see how that's going to look. Now that makes sense. It's the same thing in the development of your website. Without that, that structure and without the framework of what that's going to look like, it's really hard to build that out. You have to look at it from that perspective. So you want to make sure that you get a content management system, a CMS, that allows you to set up the framework that's going to work for your business. You want to make sure also your naming conventions, your URLs that you use, are set for SEO purposes so that people can find you through search engine optimization. And then, of course, you're always wanting to build out your website to understand future best practices so that it doesn't get old too quickly. And then, as I do with my team all the time, the framework is an important part of that process, is the 7 Ps, which is proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Now, say that a bunch of times, but it's what I say to my staff all the time is, how did you prepare for that? How did you prepare as you were developing that out? A lot of times I make them develop out flowcharts. We create nurture campaigns and things like that. You want to do the same thing as you're building out your website. Prepare. Always prepare. All right, moving forward. This page, as it says up on top, is unique to everybody who comes to it. Why is it unique? Well, because everyone has a little different business. Something might be helpful to your customers that maybe isn't helpful to somebody else. So think of it from that perspective, like building out calculators or built-in applications or e-commerce or live chat. Now, for those of you who think that live chat doesn't work, it works great. It's great for customer service, and great for sales. It allows people to get the education that they were looking for if that information is not available to them right on the page. And then dynamic content, this is great. Dynamic content is awesome for those that want to make it feel like somebody's coming to the website and you're truly speaking to them directly. So here's an example. So let's say someone comes to your website and they're from the healthcare industry. What if all your images were all about healthcare? And what, instead of talking about customer, talked about patients? Then they think that you are an authority in that business and you really only focus on that business just for them. So that's dynamic content. That's something that you might want to look into and build out as part of your website process. You always want to encourage repeat visitors. And if you have different applications tied into your website, you're going to help to create repeat visitors. You're going to provide things like those calculators and that type of information to really help in that capacity. Now at InfoPartner.net, we integrated marketing automation as a part of that process, which is a huge thing that you should probably and most likely put in place, is something like marketing type of plugins and things like that to help you in the development of your website. Marketing automation was extremely helpful. It allowed us to understand how people engaged with each asset on our website or each page of our website. We used lead scoring to help us determine a score associated to individuals. So in other words, if they clicked on a page, they got a point. If they downloaded a document, they got 10 points. If they watched a video, they got 15 points. What eventually happened was that point score just kind of went up and up and up, and then eventually they hit a threshold. What did we do when we got to that threshold? We sent a lead alert, demand generation, we sent a lead alert over to the sales team or the recruitment team to get them to engage with that potential customer, even if they didn't fill out a form. So always think of it from that perspective as well. The last stage of the process is the design and the user experience. This is where you're going to tie everything together. This is where you bring the content, the graphics, the information, all of that together in one user experience or one design. This helps you to incorporate things like your different elements, your graphics, your plugins, all that kind of stuff together. It allows for someone to get that meaningful movement along the journey and the path that they want to take. Now, there's certain things that I want you to make sure that you focus in on, which is, like I say, embrace the white space. Absolutely. White space is there for a reason. What it does is it highlights the content that you actually want them to look at. So as someone scans a page and moves down that page, they see the white space, but over to the right here is a video. You want them to watch that video. Don't muddy it up with a whole bunch of information that they don't need to look at. And also make sure that you have powerful and strategically placed calls to actions, and not just at the top or just at the bottom, but throughout the page. The calls to actions don't also have to lead directly to a contact us page. They could lead to other pieces of content that educate them or gated content throughout the process. So keep that in mind as you're developing it out. And of course, as I mentioned before, highlight interactive content such as videos, white papers, infographics, and things like that, to get someone to engage with the content that you want to engage with. So what are you doing at that point? You're dropping breadcrumbs along the way to get them to engage with that information along a journey that they think they're in control of. But in essence, you're actually in control of their journey. You're providing them with information that they want to engage with that's going to help them to better understand your business. So in summary, when it comes to the development of your website, you want to do these basic things. First thing is strategize, then it's design, then it's create that the content and your construction of your site or the site map. Then it's to enrich it with quality content throughout the entire process. And then of course to launch it with an SEO mindset as you put it in place. As you launch the information, you need to make sure that you use SEO. For those of you who have a WordPress site, I'm just going to tell you the word Yoast. Make sure you get it. Make sure you put it into your website. Make sure you set it all up with all the meta tags and great information. That's going to help you a great deal with your SEO. Next one is understanding content. Now, moving from these next sections, they're going to be much faster than the previous. Okay, they're not as long. All right, so understanding content. So the first thing you need to do is understand who your voice is. How do you want to display yourself or provide your information to your prospective customer and or your existing customer? What is the voice of your company? And how do you want to be understood by those coming to visit your website? I suggest You talk with your executive staff, you talk with your sales staff, you talk amongst your marketing team. Everyone needs to understand their voice. And there's really no rules to it, by the way. I always suggest to be fun, exciting, to be different. One of the biggest companies in the world basically said, think differently, and where are they today? So think differently. Don't do the same that everybody else is doing, because then you're just going to be the same as everybody else. With Inforum, when we asked them about, okay, what is your voice? They told us we are bold, simple, beautiful. Our tone is confident, customer-centric, and friendly. And our message and the materials, we are a market leader. We focus in on our customers. Our technology sets us apart from our competition. That is the voice that we needed to create and push out to everyone in the world, to at least potentially the new partners that were looking to become a partner of Inforum. And so that's what we created and how we developed it out. You want to embrace all of this through the copy, the content, and the graphics, so that people engage with that information along a path or journey that's going to be helpful to them. For those of you that are Inforum partners, and those of you maybe that are partners of others, that are watching this, that are partners of other companies, look for the content that is available to you through the back end of these sites. Look at the content that's available to you through the partnerships that you've created. With Inforum, they have tens of thousands of different pieces of content that's out there, that's in the back end of their website, that people aren't even engaging with. Take that content. It's free. It's yours. Take it, manipulate it, change it, add to it, put your logo on it, put your colors on it. Make it yours. Add it to your website. Let it allow you to create SEO for your website. Let it allow you to be to provide an education to your potential customer or visitor. So think of it from that perspective. Take that information. Now, a lot of people come to me and say, well, Inforum's already got that on their website. Why should I put it on mine? Well, because you are unique. You are different. When you go to Inforum, people go to Inforum and they say, well, Inforum, oh yeah, they provide ERP, or they provide, all this other, these other pieces of content, or these other products and services. People want to leave your site, hopefully saying to them, not that this company provides ERP, but that this company is going to revolutionize my business. Let people think of it from that perspective when they leave your website. SEO, search engine optimization. Well, SEO is challenging. SEO is a struggle for non-marketers and marketers alike. So don't let anyone tell you that they know everything about SEO, because they don't. There's only a few people at Google that actually know everything about SEO, and they don't let us have access to those individuals. But as we know, what is SEO? SEO is how people find you online. SEO is based on keywords, long tail, short tail keywords. Long tail ones are like almost sentences, short tail ones are little small keywords. These keywords are contained in the content that you put onto your website or you distribute out. So that's where these keywords come from. So it's really up to you to establish which keywords are going to be beneficial to your customers and your prospects and your business. So you have to take the time to understand that. Now, those co-branded assets that you get from your partnerships, the co-branded assets you can get from Inforum, pull those down, bring them on the website. Like I said before, turn those into documents that provide a wealth of keywords so that people can engage with you. Use that information. Now, here's a good thing. Why not take a bunch of different documents, pull them together, maybe turn it, 3 or 4 documents into one document, make it your own, change it up, change the title tags, change some of the body text. Make it your own, and therefore Google will look at it that way as well, and then provide you with a bit better SEO and drive you towards the front page of their website so that people can access your information first. Also, remember the rule of 4. Whenever you're developing out content that is going to be SEO friendly, you want to push it out in 4 different types of content. And I'll share with you on the next page from that. So when I first click, it's blank screen. I'm going to click again, and it's going to show you an infographic. And I'm going to click again, and it's going to show you an ebook, and then a video, and then a blog. What do all 4 of these have in common? Well, they all focus in on the same keyword. So imagine the authority you now give to the search engines when you have 4 pieces of content all focused in on the same keyword. You're going to go from page 99 over here to page 1, 2, or 3, and it's not just one piece of content, it's multiple pieces of content. They're going to populate the pages of those search engines because you've now created authority, which is very different from maybe what your competition is doing. But if you do it in 4 different ways, you're going to get up to the front, and it won't take as long as you think. All right. Changing algorithms. Why does Google change algorithms regularly? Well, they do this because, first of all, they don't want any of us to figure out how to game the system. They don't want, and in the past we did that. I mean, so if you don't think that we can game the system, we're smart too. We figure it out. What did we used to do? Guys, do you remember the word clouds? Really? Okay, big old word cloud on the side of a page. Why do people have the word clouds there? Well, it's because we wanted to get SEO. So Google's algorithm just looked at keywords. So anyone who had a word cloud on their page basically went to that page. It had 100 words on it. Why not? But when that didn't work, what did we do? We actually took all those words and we stuck them down at the bottom and just put them in a different font that looked like the same page. It was another way we went about it. Well, Google eventually slapped their hands. The search engine slapped their hands for that. Said, sorry, that's not going to happen. We're not going to allow that to be the type of content that people should be engaging with. So they are constantly changing out their algorithms so that we basically have to kind of stay up with the times and get the most relevant content to the top. And that's the whole purpose of what the search engines are truly trying to do. They're trying to get the most relevant, real content to the top. It's so frustrating when you search the internet and you find this content that's, it's not that great. You want to find great content, create great content, and it will surface to the top. All right. So those of you who've done some searching, the SEO pyramid is an important part of this process. So the top is the least impactful information. The bottom is the most impactful information. Things like social, and it's important, but it's not as impactful maybe as link building, backlink building, and things like that. And maybe not as important as truly understanding the keywords associated to your customers and your visitors and things like that. So make sure that you're doing your homework and understanding the keywords associated to your business. And then, of course, what is the bedrock? What is the true foundation of highly successful SEO? It's the content that you push out there. It's the content that you're creating on a regular basis so that people can engage with that type of content, and that's what's going to search to the top. Last is demand generation. The whole point is to define and develop out a website that provides a demand generation tool for your business. So let's talk about what is demand generation. Well, demand generation is the marketing concept that gets your prospects to learn more about your business and to learn more about your products and services. And the way we do that is we focus in on a multitude of touch points throughout the marketing sales cycle, without the marketing sales cycle in that process. And you can do that through email marketing, pushing things out through social media, putting them up onto websites that have your potential community that's engaged with that website. These are methods to create demand generation. Marketing automation, another method to create demand generation, to push people back to your website, to get them to engage with more of the information you want them to engage with. This is all facilitated by highly consistent creation of content, of quality content that people can engage with, that they can educate themselves with about your business. So we developed out these 5 simple processes, which is probably a reiteration of what I've already talked about, which is first to create quality content, create that collateral and push it up on your site. Understand SEO associated to it. You might even say, you know what, I want to rank for these keywords. That's fine. You're going to need to create content around those keywords. Content in a website or a web page or a multitude of web pages around those keywords if you truly want to rank for it. And then, of course, all of that content and information you want to integrate with your website and then push it out through a multitude of channels. So you spend all this time and money creating some awesome infographic. Great. Don't just put it up on your website. Push it out through social. Put it on LinkedIn. Put it on Facebook. Put it out onto some other pages. Get everybody in the world who can engage with this content and then create it in a multitude of different formats to get more people to engage with that information. And then, of course, do as the bottle says, lather, rinse, repeat. Again and again, the marketer's job is truly never done. It is your job to get out there and constantly create this information if you want a demand generation tool such as your website. All right, so what is the true, real purpose of websites? These are not just, and this is the thing that's really frustrating to me, it's not a digital brochure. Your website is not just some digital brochure of your business. It is made to help you develop out demand generation, to provide content and an education to your customer. That's why you create a website. to create that type of demand generation tool to help support your business and to help support your, your employees and also give an education to your potential customers. And so we look at it from these different perspectives. First, attract through the content that you develop, then engage with the user experience to allow someone to navigate through based on a journey that they want to navigate, and tell them a story. Tell them a narrative as they go through that process. And then finally, delight them with an awesome user experience. A user experience that's developed out through animation and information and videos and stuff like that that you can engage with. Make them feel like this is the company that they want to do business with. So what do you get when you combine quality web design, a great deal of digital content, and all the SEO efforts that you've put in place throughout this entire process? Well, the answer is simple. You get a killer demand generation engine, which is now your website. That will bring in more marketing qualified leads. It will bring in more opportunities, and it will help you to close more sales, which is the goal that we're all trying to accomplish. You have to start by first looking at your website as it is today and say to yourself, where do we stand? What can we change? What can we do next? Work with your team, work with your executive team, work with your marketing team and your sales team, get everybody involved. It's something that everybody in your company should be involved with. And then keep in mind that most companies are now changing out their websites every 18 months. When is the last time you changed yours?